All right, so I do have an Indiana Jones update for you guys here today, and I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while. I just have not had the time to do it, and I do have a lot to go over. So we're going to look at some photos here, and I want to start with the biggest and what I think was the coolest news, and this has to do with Disney Plus picking up the Indiana Jones movies as well as the Indiana Jones Chronicles. And I had one question about the Indiana Jones Chronicles, but I'm going to show you a few things here. So what's really cool here is the day that Disney Plus picked up the Indiana Jones franchise, pretty much everything that they've released video-wise, they had a special look. You could see it was only 4 minutes, and it was a special look at Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So if you haven't seen that, go to Disney Plus, check that out. It's very short, but it's pretty cool. Now, for me, the big question was, they picked up the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles as well. And my question on this was, did they get the episode that had Harrison Ford in it, called The Mystery of the Blues? Because when they were on the Paramount Network or Paramount Plus, that particular episode was missing. The only way you could get it is if you had the DVD box sets, which I used to have, and I ended up selling them at one point. I'm looking to get them back. But they actually do have it in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles that is on Disney Plus. So it's another look at Harrison Ford. If you never saw him in that episode, he's at the beginning in a little short action sequence, and he is at the end. And this was long before they did, the Crystal Skull movie, or there was any idea that Indiana Jones was coming back to theaters at all. So I would definitely go check that out if you haven't seen it. All right, so there have been a lot of rumors in regards to Indiana Jones over the last couple of months that the fifth movie would be the final outing of Indiana Jones, period. And Harrison Ford has had a few remarks that indicate that could be a possibility. But Harrison Ford's, he said there will never be another Indy movie after Indiana Jones 5, and while a reboot shouldn't happen, that doesn't mean it won't. Indiana Jones will return after Indy 5, even if Harrison Ford disagrees. I talked about that in my last Indiana Jones video on how they are looking, if this movie does well, they're looking to continue this series. Now, I still have a fear that they're going to shelve it, and that is, again, a topic I will talk about in an upcoming video. But if this movie doesn't do well, I think we're going to see Indiana Jones disappear for quite a while, which I think would be a shame because the movie's not looking to do very well at all. Again, here, Kathleen Kennedy confirms that, and tells us that while Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny marks Indy's final bow, the larger franchise could potentially continue on the small screen at some point. Now, I don't think she's going to be involved. I do believe she is going to lose her job, and we're going to find out why here in just a few minutes. So some new posters have been released for the movie, and I love this poster right here. I like this a lot better than the other poster. I don't really care for the colors on the other poster, this one. I really didn't care for it. These aren't high-resolution shots or anything. They're just stuff I had grabbed off of my computer. Again, here's something that confirms that Kathleen Kennedy says Indiana Jones' future might be television. Personally, I'd like to see an animated series. I want to see more comic books. I want to see more novels. There is a video game coming. So Indiana Jones is definitely not dead at this point, but if this movie doesn't do well, they may shelve it. Disney may put it in a corner. All right, so here's the last thing I wanted to look at in regards to Indiana Jones. It says, analysts are predicting a $60 to $70 million opening for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny during Independence Day weekend. And this would be absolutely catastrophic for the franchise as a whole. Harrison Ford's final performance as Indiana Jones in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny could be looking at an underwhelming box office when the film opens exclusively in theaters on June 30th. Analysts predict $60 million to $70 million take for the fifth and final Indiana Jones film over a 5-day holiday opening. While $60 million would be reason to celebrate for most movies, the Indiana Jones franchise carries a legacy that could warrant more of a return for Ford's farewell performance as the intrepid archaeologist. Now, this is insane. Dial of Destiny's 3-day opening is down from the $100 million opening of 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Often hailed as the worst film in the franchise. Not often hailed, it is the worst film in the franchise. Crystal Skull opened during Memorial Day weekend, securing $151.9 million across 5 days. One could point to the mediocre reviews for Dial of Destiny Cannes premiere as a reason for the lack of excitement for Indy's swan song. Dial of Destiny they tell us that Dial of Destiny currently sits at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, with several critics saying nostalgia isn't enough to elevate what feels like a pointless sequel. I would disagree with that. I would not consider it to be a pointless sequel. As long as it fits within the franchise and it's just another Indiana Jones adventure, I'm okay with that. I'm not asking them to reinvent what Indiana Jones is. And it sounds like some of these critics were upset that it didn't reinvent Indiana Jones, that it was just an Indiana Jones movie, and they wanted more. It says, if Lucasfilm and Disney want Dial of Destiny to be more significant hit at the box office, they'll need to crank the PR machine to 11 in the days leading up to the film's release. There's one of those CGI shots, which is pretty cool. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny stars Harrison Ford. I'm not going to read that. And they ask, are you excited for Indiana Jones? Now, this film, let's talk about how much this film is expected to lose. All right, so this film is actually on tap. If these predictions are on par with what's going to happen, then this film is expected to lose $500 million in its run. It is one of the most expensive films made in history because of all kinds of different factors when it really didn't have to be. It's just what ended up happening, I think because of COVID, some of the reshoots that were supposedly done, and, with it not doing well at the Cannes, they may make further changes to this film. But I do honestly believe if this film does not do well, that Disney is going to shelve this franchise for a long time to come. I've seen them do it with other properties. When Disney picked up Lucasfilm, that included, all the video games. And one of those franchises that I used to like for games was a series called Monkey Island. I played these when I was a kid. And the Monkey Island series now has like 7 games in the franchise. And a new one just got released on consoles just about 6 months or so ago. And the Ron Gilbert, the guy who ended up creating that franchise, talked about how when Disney bought the series, not just the series, but Lucasfilm, that his that particular IP was included in that sale. And he said he had a dickens of a time trying to get it from Disney to be able to pull it out and actually use it. They had to sell the rights back to him. And he said it was not easy to get it back. And this is the power with Disney. They have the power to do all sorts of things. And if they want to shelve something, they certainly could. And if this movie doesn't do well, I have a fear that this is what they're going to do, is they're going to shove it into a corner. And if that happens, I'm not going to be a happy camper, because this is my all-time favorite franchise, and I would love to see it continue and get more books, comic books, novels, that goes along with books, but maybe an animated series, live-action series talking about Indy's early days, not the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but actual adventure. And it would just be nice to see this character live on in all these different mediums. And that this may be the last film, and I'd be okay with that as long as it continues in other mediums. But we'll see what happens. I don't think Disney has a good track record at this point, and if this particular movie does not do well, I do think Kathleen Kennedy will be gone, and it will happen quickly. But we'll see what happens when this movie gets released here in just 3 weeks. I do have my ticket for opening night. I will have my review up for it as soon as it comes out. I will do a regular review plus a spoiler review. And that leads me to something I want to talk about here at the end of this film, at the end of this video. And if you don't want to have any spoilers, please log off now. One of the most disgusting things that I heard since my last video was the ending of the film. And I'm going to talk a bit about the ending of this film and how I think this is completely asinine if this is the way that they go with this. And I don't know if this is true or not. So again, if you don't want to know anything, you have your fair warning. You can leave now. Supposedly at the very end of the movie, they do end up getting this time travel device, and they are able to travel back in time. Don't know all the details as to why and what the purpose is, all of what's happening behind the scenes, but it appears, according to several reports, that Indiana Jones wants to stay in the 30s because there's nothing for him in the 60s. He wants to stay in that time period, and that Phoebe's character in the film, his goddaughter, tells him you can't stay here because it would have catastrophic effects on the future. You know, you'll change history. And he says he does not want to leave. So what she has to do is knock him out. She punches him, knocks him out, and has to drag him back to, I think it's 1969 or whatever it is. If this is how the film ends, and she ends up being the hero because Indiana Jones is so stupid that he wouldn't realize that he would change history by staying there and changing things, I think betrays the character itself. Again, Disney has this habit of taking their strong male characters and making them very weak. And I'm not talking physically as they get older. I'm talking that they make them weak because they have to knock down these male characters to make the other characters around them stronger. And I'm afraid she's going to be the hero of the story, and Indiana Jones is going to be reduced to this selfish old man who wouldn't understand the repercussions of his decisions. And that was never Indiana Jones. And so Indiana Jones, that would ruin the reputation. And I do not like that as an ending. If that is the ending, Disney has definitely shot themselves in the foot, and they need to change that ending. But we'll see what happens when it finally gets released. All right, we will see you on the next video.